First of all, thank you for inviting me and presenting what is only an example of what we did during the last years in L'Oréal as I was the CEO. So we'll go through different steps. And first of all, why did I add some interest in MetaSmart? As a CEO of L'Oréal, I was visiting a cooperative in Norway, and I saw in Synoptic the name of MetaSmart. And as Brian said, I was interested many years away in a smart amine. So MetaSmart, it looks like smart amine for ruminants. And I say, why does these people use MetaSmart? Norway is not well known for a huge milk production, so I started to be interested in. And I came back in France, had a look in the eventual interest in that product. So I will go quickly comparing the monogastric and ruminant nutrition, but we've got a problem with the rumen, which is very difficult to understand, and you saw the science dealing with difficulties with that models. So we are in L'Oréal a straight user of the PDI and UFL system. So I will only talk about PDI, and the value I will give will come from the INRA tables. So, but the first idea for all the system is cow needs amino acid. So how do I get this amino acid to the udder? First of all, as everybody says before, you need to feed the rumen. Okay, let's go and go quick. And then you have to meet the requirement for the udder. The bugs need ammonia, and the cow needs amino acids. Where does this amino acid come from? It comes first from the rumen bugs. Everybody knows that. But when the cows is producing more and more, the part of the PDIA, the bypass amino acid, is higher. The higher the cow produces, the higher the proportion of the diet amino acid is high. So, as mentioned before also, why do we need methionine and lysine? First of all, because the casein, the protein of milk, is very high, which is a very good news for us because we drink, we eat milk. So it's a very, very good protein. Microbes has pretty good concentration of lysine and methionine also. But forages, concentrate, they are lower. So you will need anyway to feed some more amino acid. The combined contribution of microbes is less than milk composition. That's to be keep in mind. So when you say that, in order to achieve a good production, you will need to overfeed most amino acid to meet lysine and methionine requirement, or you will underfeed methionine and lysine. That's the problem you will get rid of. Science is there. There are lots of publications. Rulkin, Schwab did it, and many others after them. The science is well-based, no problem. It is a lot of data to be used in the feed meal. But how can we do it? And first of all, perhaps, what was L'Oréal? So L'Oréal is a feed meal company working in the northeast of France, Alsace, and Lorraine. We've got, at that time, 4 feed mills dealing with cooperative brand on Alsace, Costal, a second cooperative brand in Laurent, Epilor, and a third one, a private one, Evialis. We are producing roughly 200,000 tons a year, two-thirds of them for ruminants, mainly dairy, and another part for broiler. What was our market share? Costal, in this area, has a very high market share of 60% for the dairy feed. And when I say feed, I say only feed coming out of a feed mill, not commodities, not raw material, only concentrate coming from the feed mill, from the factory. So in that area, a very large market share. Epilor in Lorraine, little less, 30, and Evialis all over around 10%. So we've got a market, we've got science. What do we do with that? We say, hey, we've got different steps to go at the end. First of all, science. Okay, that's well known, well established. You need also an industry, because we are feed mills. We manage an industrial tool, and that tool will have to incorporate very little amount of products. Amino acid, that's not a high percentage in a feed. That's very low. And MetaSmart is also a very special product. You need to be sure that your industrial process is able to handle it. The liquid one, I think. I would say. So a good industry. Make sure your tool is good. You need also a strong strategic decision in order to have a real impact on your sales. You have to motivate your salespeople, because it will be a tough job to change the habit of the dairy farmer. And then you can be helped by a good environment. And when I say that, I say the price of the protein, the world price of protein. That's a different step we try to get through. What did we do with that? First of all, we were based on a Rulkin equation dealing with the efficiency of PDI, of MP. And this equation says that dealing with the ratio lysine-methionine, you will increase or decrease the efficiency of the PDI. So that was our first idea, the first step to manage the amino acid. That's a slide from Henri Rulkin showing that going from 38 to 44 grams of MED in a diet, you could increase your PDE efficiency by 6%. So that's a very simple equation. When you enter lysine, methionine, and you say your PDI yield could be lower or higher. That was the basis. But when you want to formulate on an amino acid formulation, you will need two things. You will need nutrients and you will need products. And first of all, you have to describe your ingredients present in your feed meal on the basis of this amino acid content. Using PDI, we were only looking at the PDI value. But if you want to go to lysine and methionine, histidine and so on, you have to describe properly your matrix on these new parameters. And that's not very easy. Amino acids are nutrients used for nutritional value. like other animal nutrients. So you need to validate your database. And when you look into the different database available in a feed mill, you've got the INRA tables, but you've got also the premix and services firm proposition. And for the same product, when you compare INRA tables and the different firm coming and visit us, there are huge differences. So you have to ask them, where does your data come from? How did you calculate them? And then you choose the one you understand, and you avoid the others. Sometimes you don't understand, and sometimes they don't understand what they propose to you. That's true. So just describe your ingredients properly in terms of amino acid concentration in the crude protein, but also the ADI value, so the grams of lysine, methionine for the intestine. And then amino acid is also a new ingredient. There are many products on the market, as it was said before. So at our level, we had to choose some product. It's very difficult. We don't have any lab able to do this analysis, so we count on robotics farms, and we did some trials in some farms, and at the end, we validated the MetaSmart I saw in Norway. I won't tell about the other one, but as Chuck said, with some of them you see really nothing. And with the MetaSmart, dealing with robot, it's very clear with high quantity the effect of that product. So we choose the MetaSmart. Second step, you go on farm with your technical staff, and you describe the typical diets of your region. The first things we did it in Alsace, so on corn silage-based diet. And we describe the typical diets on this value, lysine and methionine. So then we try to evaluate our traditional protein mix with this lysine and methionine. And then we reformulate this protein mix. Based on the ID, it will be given at exactly the same quantity on farm. And there is a good reason to do that, because when you want to change the habit of a dairy farmer, it's very difficult. You need time. You need saliva, a lot of saliva to do that. So we try a very simplest way, just change nothing. You will switch from the whole product to the new one. When we did that, we had another test period with 20 herds robotic, and then we were able to go to the commercial launch. These different steps, it's perhaps difficult to read, but that's an example of what an on-farm diet could be on the software Ruminant. So it's a typical Alsatian diet with a lot of corn silage, roughly 12 kilos, and added with 3 kilos of green forages, and then the concentrates. When you evaluate these typical diets on the system, you evaluate it on the base of energy, PDI-N, PDI-E, and I added lysine and methionine. How did that calculation, I say, okay, the recommendation in the INRA system is as a percentage of PDI. So I took 7% for lysine and 2.2% for methionine. And doing so, it's very clear that a well PDI calculated diet is good in that example for lysine, but it's very poor for methionine. Oh, forget to do that. And at the end, we can see that we've got 2,276 grams of PDIE, 158 grams of lysine, 42 grams of MED. So keep in mind that's the basis of the calculation. So you put out the diet, the forages, and the concentrate given on farm, and you go to the feed you will have to deliver. In that example, the quantity daily feed was 5.5 kilos per head. And going back to the Rulkin equation, these are the data. So this quantity of lysine, this quantity of methionine, the ratio, and the calculation done by Rulkin for the 2,276 grams of PDI, assuming that you will have 1.2 kilo grams of protein in the milk. And all the story there, you made a very simple calculation, and you change a little bit the quantity of lysine and methionine in order to increase the protein efficiency. In that example, I decrease the lysine a little bit. I increase a lot the quantity of methionine to obtain that level. And the calculation gives you only 2,000 grams of PDI. That means you get sparing of roughly 200 grams of PDI for the same production. So that's very simple, very easy to understand, I think. So there is less lysine, more methionine, and an increase in protein and PDI efficiency by roughly 10%. And then you go back to the same calculation on 1 kilo of feed, you divide by 5.5, so you could formulate less PDI, less lysine, and more methionine. If you do that increase in methionine only with Metasmart, liquid Metasmart, it will be a 0.4 inclusion rate. That's not a lot. So remember, your feed industry has to be good. So the formulation constraints are there. You change only the protein aspect of your constraint. So less PDI, the same amount of minerals, and you try not to change also histidine level, starch unchanged. And comes the problem of the crude protein. There is no requirement for crude protein level. So it is a technical and a commercial aspect that let us think that we didn't want to change a lot the protein content of our feed, because in France, we are very traditional. And the first thing a farmer gets on a label, it's the protein level. If you diminish it a lot, you say, hey, it's just nothing. It's less protein. It won't be good for my dairy production. So we decided to diminish by 0.5% the total concentration of crude protein of the diet. And for that 5 kilo a day product, that is only 2.2% diminishing the crude protein. In some products, we diminished that crude level by 6%, going from 47 to 41. That is the theory, and I want to give you an example with economical data. Is it interesting or not? So first of all, the initial recipe, a typical coastal protein mix with some constraint on the degradable protein. So that's like a Ruminant degradable protein on the American system. The quantity of methionine lysine in that old mix, 4 and 16 grams. The percentage of soybean meal, very high, because farmers have soybean, very good. They want a lot, they want a lot. The more you have, the better you are. But dealing with that percentage, the cost of 1 point of soybean meal is 1.15 euro. You decrease by 1% your minimum of 60%, you earn money, a lot of. So the first thing before amino acid formulation is to go and free this percentage of soybean. And you earn a lot of money just dealing with this pure commercial constraint. This product was at 47% of crude protein with a high quantity of urea. We set it as a constraint. And anyway, we got this earning. We formulate based on amino acid with only 30% of soybean. There is another gain obtained. And without any commercial constraint, the soybean mean level goes to 20%, and an additional gain was obtained. But when you do so, you change a lot your composition. Sure, soybean goes down, rapeseed goes up. There is a little bit of Metasmart, but also new products, DDGS, any kind of product that fit in that new formulation. And that's a real problem for farmers. So, as you see, it was cheaper. So we launched our products, and it was at that time that soybean meal was very high. So we had a very good result with the commercial aspects. And after 2 years of commercial sales, we say, hey, we have to make sure that what we said was right. So we tried to compare the efficiency of our system to the non-user of our amino acid-based formulation. So on our data, we found farms that were long-term users during 1 year of this special kind of products. Lactis was the Alsatian one, Team was the Laurent one. We found roughly 200 farms using year-long these products, roughly 2 kilos per day. We signed an agreement with the structure storing the official dairy records. And then we had to have a look again at the quantity because some of the customers were not adherent. We are not member of the official controls. We had also to erase some data because the percentage of milk farm, the percentage of genetics was not exactly the same. But at the end, we arrived at this data dealing with 95 farms using our system and all the others non-using. Remember, it's all year long with a huge number of records. And what you see is it's a little bit more or equal milk production. On Alsace, where we have got a lot of corn silage based, we see an increase in milk production. Everywhere there's more protein in milk, 0.3 grams per kilo, less milk urea nitrogen, and also in some part a reduction in somatic cell count, and a better milk production coming from the forages. That's the first results. We have done another calculation within our customer, comparing the users and the non-users in with our products on nitrogen efficiency. So they were all L'Oréal users, some amino acid formulation, the other not. And at the end, dealing with the production, dealing with the composition of the diet, we were able to show that we increase nitrogen efficiency by roughly 10%. That was the numbers given at the very first. That means that a lot of nitrogen is not lost in the environment. Economically speaking, the benefit comes from different parts of the production. First of all, extra protein in the milk, extra milk, and also cost reduction, because we choose to say, okay, you will have exactly the same product, but 10 or 20 euro less per ton. So 3 parameters. With the Laurent example, it was 1.7 euro more for 1,000 liters produced, and 2.4 coming from the decrease in that region. It was 20 euro per ton less. In Alsace, where you've got also a milk production increase, the benefit is higher, roughly 15 euro per 1,000 liters of milk. So, thanks to the amino acid formulation based on an average farm in our region, you can spare, without doing nothing from the farmer point of view, between 2,500 and 9,000 euro a year, just switching from the old to the new formulation system. We published that in the INRA Journée 3 Heures in 2015. We made a poster of it, we use it, but you have to keep in mind some interesting thought. We used the least cost, cheaper cost, with equivalent performances. It is a huge commercial attractivity. No one can resist to this. There are some philosophy possible, increasing the cost, but increasing a lot the performances. And talking about return on investment, it could be better. But it is very difficult to deal with the commercial issue when you say to people, hey, you have to invest. That's very difficult. And to show this, remember, with Evialis, we had 10% market share. they switch only 20% of their protein mix with the new formulation. With Epilor, about the same, and I have to say that Evialis choose the higher cost, higher performances. For Epilor, which was with €20 less, it was 40% that was switched to the amino acid formulation. And for Costal, who was the first to do it, we had the opportunity to change 60% of our customer to this new formulation. So, a good science, a good industry, a strong marketing, a good strategy, a favorable market with a high soybean price, and then you can reach a huge quantity of amino acid using and some things to say to your customer. A good benefit for the feed industry, a good industry, of course, first of all, for the farmer benefit with lower cost. A good benefit also for the milk industry, because higher is the protein percentage, higher is the cheese yield. A good thing also for the environment, less nitrogen in the field, in the water, and also a trade benefit because you import less soybean. And the take-home message is the composition of feed is changed. And for us, from a commercial point of view, it needs to be explained and demonstrated with farmers and prescriptors. It's a hard work to do, but it is economically efficient. Even with a low soybean cost, you have to switch to the amino acid formulation because you will spare anyway. If you are not using amino acid synthesized one, no problem. You will get a better product, well balanced on amino acid rate. You need tools to explain this. You need to communicate in the press, the professional one, but also the generic one. You have to let some info on the web. And for finish, I will say the amino acid nutrition can help industry to cope with sustainability challenge, which is a problem right now. If all French dairy cows ration were balanced on amino acid, soy use will decrease by 50%. That's 500,000 tons less imported per year. And based on 3 tons per hectare and 80% yield as a meal, you will save 200,000 of forest. So that's another argument to use amino acid ration balancing. Thank you.